Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Arena Wars 2? Needless to say, it's the sequel to the original Arena Wars, which is, funnily enough, one of those games that I've owned and then never ever played. Back in the day, I used to troll sites like Play.com, Amazon, of course, Game.co.uk, and a wide variety of other sites, just looking for really cheap clearance games. And I just grab them by the dozen. Why? Because sometimes I get a really good deal, and at least I'd have a nice big stockpile of really cheap games. Needless to say, back then I didn't really have a lot of money. So Arena Wars was one of those games that I picked up, but I think is probably still lying somewhere in a box, completely sealed, something that I never even bothered to play. So it kind of confused me greatly that Arena Wars 2 just popped out of nowhere. Like, why? Did the game really warrant a sequel? Well, apparently it did, and that's what we have. This is a game by ExDream, who don't really have a huge amount of development history aside from the original Arena Wars, and this is a simplified multiplayer RTS, which involves a capture the flag kind of mechanic. Now, as you can see, it's fairly basic. I mean, it is not a good-looking game. It's not a terrible one either, but it does certainly look a little bit behind the times. You can edit the controls, and the funny thing is, when you click Edit Controls, it brings up a text file. No, I'm deadly serious. It brings up a text file. You can't even see that on the screen. It's like, well, this is a little bit rough around the edges, isn't it? Oh, well, we'll deal with it, and we'll see how it turns out. Okay, so let's play a little bit. I'd love to play online, but I tried earlier, and there's nobody on. Nobody owns this game at all. A shame. But that is the nature of the beast. So let us continue, and we're going to give it a shot. I think I'll... Unfortunately, since you have to unlock each difficulty level, I guess I'm going to be playing against casual, and let's try and play against casual on Ancient Forest. Alright, here we go. So, you have this basic little base thing right here. This is your factory, it builds a unit. This is your launch pad. You've got to protect it because it has 3 of these little modules on it. If they get stolen, that's it, kind of GG. So, every time you level up, you get the chance to upgrade a unit, which is exactly what I happen to be doing here. Unfortunately, it seems like there is no waypoint system, so I can't actually have my guys automatically rally to a specific location, which is a little bit annoying. Now, each of the lanes, kind of in a Dota style, does have a turret protecting it, so it does make it a little bit difficult to actually make your way through to the target. However, there are these smaller lanes around there that you can sneak through if you want. Now, I've upgraded my walker, so it's a little bit stompier than this guy, so not too worried about that. I might also build an artillery piece there just to be defensive, and almost leveled up by the looks of it. So this walker's doing a pretty good job of defending against that guy, and he's going to steal a module and then be immediately destroyed, so that's not really too big a deal. I'm going to park an artillery piece actually right here so that it's got a good opportunity to shoot. Now, each of these units does have an ability of some description. The spider is able to send a bunch of rockets in the direction of something. And you will also find on these maps XP item places and item places. They didn't exactly put a lot of effort into the naming convention of this game, I have to say. It's like, oh, it's an XP place. Right, okay, I get the idea. If you destroy the XP place, then you get experience. If you destroy the item place, then you get an item. It's really as simple as that. Not a huge amount of difficulty involved in that. So the point is to create a decent unit composition using this limited supply that you have down to the bottom here, which you can upgrade every level, or alternatively, you can actually upgrade units. So it's like, do I want more supply, or do I want bigger, stompier units? Well, I would like a level 3 walker, and as you can see, they do actually get cosmetically changed, which is a feature I do rather enjoy. I don't think enough RTS-style games really do that. It's always cool to watch that happen. Now, I hear something firing somewhere, but I'll be damned if I know where. Head up in this direction. Now, it is possible to bypass the need to grab stuff from the module entirely. There is a power function, and what the power function actually does is when you kill it, it blows up everything that's on the enemy launch pad. So if they happen to be playing very, very defensively, then that can cause them a lot of problems. So there is at least a way around people just turtling horribly, which is something that I think a game like this would very much encourage. I want to head up the side and actually have a little bit of a poke in that general direction. Building units is nice and easy. You can just use the function keys to build a lot of them. Now, I may actually just try and build a bunch of buggies and actually try and do a quick run up the side. In the meantime, I'm going to send some walkers up to the side here to blow this up. And it's not a terrible looking game. In fact, it actually has quite a nice style to it. It reminds me actually of Red Alert 3 quite a lot. And it's got this nice, crisp, colourful look to it. However, the problem that I've got with the game is just it seems astonishingly simplistic, and this would be a game that would be kind of awesome if it was released several years ago, and, well, it wasn't. That is blindingly obvious to everybody. It was not released several years ago at all, and as a result, it just seems outdated, and it doesn't seem like it really brings anything to the table. And if you're looking to do action RTS, then that's really what Dota-style games do right now. This is not something that is new to the RTS genre in any real respect. The idea of just simplifying the RTS genre in a very specific way. It's not a new thing. So, to me, it seems like this is maybe a little too late to really be relevant in any actual respect. What are we gonna get? So we could get a level 2 destroyer, and then maybe build some of those. Move some walkers around there to make sure nothing horrible happens. Alright, we've grabbed some items. And you know what, I'm gonna grab his XP stuff as well over there, because why not? In fact, I should send these walkers over here to grab my stuff as well. I can see that maybe if this was played by 2 very experienced players, then it could actually be quite interesting and pretty hectic. The main problem being that there are no actual players for it right now, so it's very hard to really judge how good the game actually is, because I think its simplistic nature relies pretty much entirely on having 2 really good players to create an enjoyable and challenging game experience. Now, going up against the AI, you really don't get that so much. There we go. As you can see in this case, it's just not especially difficult, and since it insists on unlocking difficulty levels 1 at a time for whatever godforsaken reason, I'm not exactly having a huge amount of fun with it thus far. Now, it is a very micro-intensive RTS, which I do appreciate. That's good. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's an entirely legitimate way of doing things. I'm going to try and grab his module and then make a run for it. Stuff pushing down in this general direction. I think we might need a carpet bomb to save our turret. There we go. Alright, let's see if I can get him out without hitting the turret. I probably can't. I'll give it a shot anyway. Come on, get around there. Nice. Okay, so let's just send him back to base. Alright, I think we could definitely do with a few more units on the field. I think if this is the kind of game that you'll enjoy, you've probably already figured it out from just watching the actual video itself. It seems like it could really be fun in a LAN environment. Potentially. I'm only saying potentially because I don't have any experience to tell you whether or not that is really the case. Like I say, it is micro-intensive, which some people really, really hate, but you know, that's just the way that the game is actually designed to work. Okay, we've managed to relay one back there, so that's pretty nice. I'll send some walkers up the front, actually, and just start to smash some stuff. The little capture the flag mechanic is kind of cool, but you know what really gets me is that for some reason they decided in the description on Steam it would be a really, really good idea to say, oh, it's a mixture of RPG and RTS mechanics. It really isn't. Like, this whole leveling up thing has actually been in games for ages. The original Command & Conquer had veterancy system in it. So, no, it isn't actually a mixture of that and RPG. I think it's kind of becoming apparent as to why they're releasing this now. I think they saw the Dota craze and thought, oh wait, we actually kind of did this years ago. We had this whole action RTS idea, so why don't we just do that right now? And I can understand why they would do it, certainly, but I'm not entirely convinced that it has really created a very interesting title. In fact, it seems to have sort of done quite the opposite. It's technically proficient. That is abundantly clear. You know, I'm actually reasonably impressed by its graphical fidelity. The voice acting for the units is really bad, but I do like the announcer voice. That's pretty cool, so I'm not so keen on its music, but hey, you know, I guess that's a very subjective thing to say. And the price is kind of right, too. You know, I'll show you the price comparison at the end of this video, but it's definitely not expensive. I mean, it's very, very much a budget title indeed, so I can see that some people may enjoy it, especially when they happen to have a bunch of friends that are really up for playing it. Unfortunately, I don't really have a bunch of friends that are up for playing it, and the online community for this game seems to be entirely dead. So it's hard to really recommend that game on that basis. It's always a risk, isn't it? When you buy a primarily multiplayer game, there is the risk that the game just simply will not have a community backing it up. So as a result, you just don't end up having any fun whatsoever because you can't play it with anybody. Really unfortunate, isn't it? I don't think this is one of those games that really necessarily deserves it. You know, it's not a crying shame that it doesn't have it. I could definitely see why it doesn't have it, because this game seems to have a very limited appeal. And in the age of action RTS, we have a lot of options for people that want the RTS experience without a lot of the base building and complexity. And honestly, again, this was done years ago. We had games like Ground Control, whereby there were no bases at all, World in Conflict, also a good follow-up example, and then games that were very much based on the aggressive style of play. Dawn of War 2 doesn't require any base building, and that's a very action-orientated RTS. It's got more units. I mean, there really isn't a lot of unit variety here at all. I appreciate the upgrade system. I love being able to upgrade units in a game, particularly when it gives a cosmetic effect. That's just a personal thing that I very much enjoy doing. But still, even then, there's just not a lot to the game, and I think you'd need a bunch of people that are really, really good at it in order to get a very enjoyable experience out of the multiplayer. So it's hard to recommend. And, you know, it is kind of a shame, but again, as I pointed out, it very much is a case of it being a game which is sort of out of date, and a game that would have been very exciting many years ago. And that's, I suppose, the true tragedy of it, that Arena Wars didn't really sell very well years and years ago when it came out, and it pretty much did this concept. And then now they're bringing out Arena Wars 2, and now the concept's been done to death. That's kind of depressing. You know, I feel a little bit sorry for them for that, but at the end of the day, it's a company trying to sell us a video game. And if it's not the kind of game that we're particularly interested in, then obviously it's not going to sell very well. It is very much a buyer's market at the moment. There are plenty of options out there, and that's a good thing for the industry in general. Alright, let's fire a little rocket barrage at him. I still do like the aesthetic of it. Like, they've put quite a lot of detail into the unit design. It actually very much reminds me of Ground Control, funnily enough, which is always a good comparison, because I love Ground Control. It's a really, really great game. But there you go, folks. That is what Arena Wars 2 has to offer. There are a couple of different modes. There's 2v2, 1v1, there's a co-op. This single player is basically just against AI. There's no story of any description. And there's probably about 10 different maps available for you. There are 6 units, which I think perhaps is too few, but I guess they were really focused on making a balanced multiplayer competitive experience. But as someone that's really into competitive RTS with StarCraft 2 and games like that, this is not a game that honestly appeals to me a great deal. I do like the item system. It's nice that they have these various areas on the map that you can go to grab items, and there is a reasonable number of items available for you as well. Various things like ion cannons, carpet bombs, slow down, and all sorts of different things, and you can even pick some starting items in the options menu. But still, this is not the kind of game that's going to keep me interested for very long, and that's a little bit sad. Prices are on the screen right now, ladies and gentlemen. You can at least say the price is right. You're looking at about $8, your regional equivalent, so it's not like it's a particularly expensive game, and some people might have a lot of fun with it if they happen to have 1 to 3 friends to play with that would actually really dig a game like this. It's not for me right now. It really isn't. There you go, folks. A look at Arena Wars 2, currently available on Steam. My name has been TotalBiscuit, and I shall see you next time.